Hey, what's the deal, YouTube? It's your girl, Miss Honey. Welcome back to the channel, you guys. It is your girl, Miss Honey, here to do a brief review slash conversation slash discussion regarding a movie that I saw that really was the first movie in a long time that, I know gave me kind of um, a little bit of a challenge. Like this movie gave me a little bit of a challenge. I posted a video on my community feed wanting you guys or encouraging you guys to watch the video and so that we can discuss it and in a sort of review slash discussion um, format because I wanted to get you guys' opinion on it. I hope that if you're watching this video, you have had an opportunity to see the movie. Again, the movie is called Before I Go to Sleep. I think it's the name of the movie, Before I Go to Sleep, and it stars Nicole Kidman and Colin Firth and some others, and we're going to get into that. Again, the movie is from 2014. I know that it can be found on Hulu. I'm told that it is no longer on Netflix. I'm sure it can probably be found on Amazon Prime. There's a whole host of other streaming apps where you probably can find the movie, especially since it was from 2014. So, yeah, let's just talk about this movie. Again, this is the first movie in a while that has really challenged my thought process, challenged my deductive reasoning, challenged my presumptive perspective. It just, all the things I used to find out who the killer, who the villain is, who the heavy is, the antagonist is. All of these things were challenged. You just went from one end of the spectrum to the other, and I really enjoyed that. I felt like it was very engaging. I noticed a lot of the symbolism. There was some overtones to it that were pushing this sort of simplistic, giving us this simplistic veil sort of cover to the whole situation that I thought was, it was pretty clever by the writers and the producers of this show. But let's talk about this movie. Okay, again, if you have not seen it, there will be spoilers. So I encourage you to look at the movie, and that way we can really have an engaged discussion down below in the comments. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say. You all know that I consider my honeybees to be some of the smartest, most in-depth reviewers. You guys have some very in-depth, layered conversation with me down below in the comment section, which I personally love and find refreshing. So I look forward to that. If you are new to my channel, if you have not yet become a member of my tribe, I know you can barely see the sign back there. I'd love to have you as a member of my tribe. Hit that notification bell. Don't forget to hit the all selection on that notification bell. Please don't forget that thumbs up. You guys already know I consider that thumbs up like waving at me as I sit on the porch and you drive by, baby. Hey, Miss Honey. Okay. And of course, the comments down below. I live. Okay. Let's talk about it. So this movie picks up with a woman whose name is Christine, and she has been in some sort of incident. We're first told that it's an accident. We find out later that it was an attack of some sort. Again, the woman is played by Nicole Kidman, and she plays a woman named Christine Lucas. One of the things I also wanted to talk about in this discussion was my feelings about it from a 2020 present day coronavirus, um, ever increasing brutality against Black and brown people all across this country, the perspective of the Black and brown person juxtaposed to a person who is uh, of Caucasian descent, Anglo-Saxon, Caucasoid, if you will, perspective. So I had a myriad of emotions when watching this. And I find that that's the case with a lot of movies that I'm watching nowadays. I'm looking at most of these movies, most of this content from this perspective where uh, everything seems nonsensical. It seems like a joke. It seems like a laughing matter. It seems like we as a people, as a community, as women as a whole, we're not taking some of the more egregious things that are going on in this society seriously. It's kind of like we have this momentary outrage and then we all kind of move on. Or we have this apathetic view where nothing's going to be done, nothing's going to be said, it's not going to be a big deal, people aren't going to be convicted. Everybody lies, the government lies, like sort of this jaded perspective where we just become very, very apathetic to a lot of the more heinous things that go on in our community, in the news, in the government, business, so on and so forth, social media, so on and so forth. So again, Christine Lucas has she suffers from anterograde amnesia, and which is she's unable to form new memories. Every morning she becomes reacquainted with her husband Ben, who's played by Colin Firth, and other individuals in her life. This is where we pick up where the scene opens where she's opening her eyes, and they are the bluest eyes. One thing we learn about Christine is she is sort of your typical damsel, what we're used to seeing presented to us. She's a blue-eyed alabaster beauty, the purest, whitest, most colorless skin. She's got this kind of strawish, strawberry blonde hair. She gets up and there's this man in bed with her, and he's got his arm draped around her, and she, wakes up sort of in a fright, like, who is this guy? Where am I? Who am I? What's going on? Like, I'm not sure. She wakes up with fright in her eyes. So she, throws his arm off of her, just moves it really quietly. It's almost like she knows that she's naked, he's naked, they're in the bed naked. She doesn't know why. She doesn't know what's going on. She gets up, she gathers all her clothes, and she shutters herself off into the bathroom. And when she gets into the bathroom, she, just kind of tries to figure it out, tries to figure out what's going on. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think so, though, so I won't say that. But she's just trying to kind of get a grips with everything that's going on. And when she comes out of the bathroom, Ben, her husband, is sitting on the side of the bed, and you can tell that he seems a little weather beaten. He seems a little over it. And as soon as she opens the door, he tells her, "I am your husband, Ben. This is the thing that happens to you." And the way he's telling it, it seems like it's the routine. Like every morning she wakes up in fright. Every morning she, shuffles herself off to the bathroom with her clothes and kind of tries to figure it out herself. How is she going to get out of this? What is she going to do? Like, what's happening? How can I find out? Who can I... Like, all of this stuff goes through her head every morning. And every morning he goes through the routine of telling her who she is and who he is and what happened to them. And, that he's off to work, and makes her list of things, a board of pictures and names and information that she can she can reference throughout her day, things that she can do around the house. He tells her, you love to stay busy. And he goes on off to work. He goes to give her a hug, and she's just still not quite sure. And it's another reminder to him that she doesn't remember. Like, she's not grasping what you told her, even though you told her yesterday. He's on this gerbil wheel with her. And as frightening as it is for her, it's got to be equally as exhausting for him. And so during these first few scenes, I felt really bad for her husband, because I'm like, it has got to be exhausting to every day repeat the same day. Kind of like we feel right now in quarantine. Doesn't it kind of seem like every day is the same? If you don't make a concerted effort to refreshing your life, refreshing your day, get up, get dressed, get yourself motivated to do some different things, to pull some things down or out, or put some things away, or dust it off, or, if you don't do what you need to do to entertain yourself and to continue to refresh yourself and revitalize yourself, you can get caught in this same old day routine and rut as well. Like, it's relatable. But I feel very, very sorry for him, because at the same time, he really seems like he loves her. He seems like he's brokenhearted, that she kind of pulls away from him, like, how dare you kiss me and I don't even know who you are. So he goes on off to work, and she's there around the house, and she's kind of just standing around like she's waiting for something to happen, and the phone rings. And when the phone rings, we're introduced to Dr. Nash. Dr. Nash is a psychotherapist, I think. And somehow he has begun working with her. And at first you think, okay, well, this is something that her and her husband has put in place so that continually throughout the day she can work on sort of regaining her memory, or jogging her memory, or possibly reversing this thing that has happened to her. Now, when we see this opening scene and he tells her what happens to her, he tells her that she was in a horrible accident and a lot of head injury, and this is what happened. Dr. Nash tells her that he is her therapist and he is there to help her. He tells her to go into her bedroom, bottom drawer, look in the far corner in the back. There is a shoebox. Open it up. There's a camera. And then press the play button on the camera, and it will replay her last thoughts, her last bit of energy for the day before, like what she was feeling, what she learned. If she was anxious, like, she's able to sit in this camera and tell herself who she is in her own words, in her own voice, with her own face. It's very clever. It's very clever, in my opinion. So she goes and she looks at it, and when we first see the first video that she plays the night before, she seems like she's stolen away, and she's whispering into the camera, and she's saying, "My name is Christine Lucas. I'm this many years old, and I had an accident, and I can't remember, and every day starts the same, and this is what's going on now." And then, she talks a little bit more, and she's like, "Oh, he's coming," which gives us as the viewer this sense that imminent danger is coming. Like, she's frightened, she's afraid, she's not sure. So now I'm side-eyeing the husband, like, what's going on? Then we see where the doctor comes and picks her up, and over a period of several weeks, he has conversations with her. He takes her back to where she was located. She finds that she was not actually in a car accident. She was actually attacked. Where they found her was sort of at this trucking yard warehouse thing in between two trailers. One of the workers there found her bleeding and bloody and blood everywhere. She goes back to this place and hears from the individual that found her what he found and all of this, and all of these are like daily triggers, and every day she learns a little bit more about herself. Now, this is unbeknownst to her husband. Her husband comes on home, and it is as routine as anything can be, except she peppers in little questions about who was she, who are these people, certain names that have come up in her head. One of the things I thought was really, really telling about the movie was that on a visual, everything in their home seems very pedestrian, very plain, very simple. And you may think, maybe they were always simple people. You may think that maybe they're keeping it very simple to keep from overwhelming her. But I would think that you would keep the home the way it was, how she kept the home. And to me, that would be more triggering than anything. Now, mind you, she can't formulate new memories, but she still knows how to drive. She knows how what a phone is and how to pick it up and turn it on. She knows the difference between a landline phone in her home and a cell phone that she carries around. She's obviously able to read directions and find her way to meet the doctor, to go to different places. It's weird to me that she retains these things, but she doesn't retain the fact that she had a very good friend, Claire. This comes out in her sessions with the doctor, her going around and having conversation. It comes out that the person that attacked her, she thinks her name is Mike. Now, she has this moment with the doctor where she sees that his name is Mike Nash. Now, he has encouraged her. He's Dr. Nash, but he's Dr. Mike Nash. Now, at this point, he has encouraged her to keep the information about what they're doing in therapy session from her husband. The fact that he even exists from her husband. She mentions, I think I want to tell him. I think I want to talk. And I kept saying, I was like, girl, you don't know him. You don't know him. You got pictures of you and the husband together. Him, you ought to know. Just imagine the fright she must have been in. Not knowing who to trust. Not knowing who's giving her the truth, who is leading her astray. I'm like, does the lady have the key to the safe? Does she know where the diamonds are buried? Like, why are these two individuals, these two males, seem to be completely opposite in their way they approach her illness? Dr. Nash seems like he wants her to come to this revelation about what's going on with her, about who her husband really is, which to me kind of seems kind of sinister. It seems a bit manipulative, because he could be telling her anything. And then when she discovers that his name is Mike and she's had this vision or dream about the person that may have attacked her, whose name was Mike, she sees a man with a scar on his face, and that doesn't connect with her, but the name Mike does connect with her, and she's grown increasingly close with Dr. Nash. They're taking these daily trips together. They have this moment where and we see little touches of affection between him giving it to her and consoling her. And let's just freeze for a moment and talk a little bit about what my perspective is on everyone's relationship with her. Like, they treated her like damsel, like victim, like she was a precious little innocent little baby bird that needed to be protected, which I was kind of affronted by. I was like, people leave you and don't want to be bothered when you're slightly ill, but for you to have to every day have your life ran back over to you, and you only remember it for that brief period of time, the next morning it has to be repeated, seems like something that would push people away. But for whatever reason, people feel drawn to her, especially men folks. Okay, so when she realizes his name is Mike, she thinks, oh no, you are the person that attacked me. You are the person that hurt me. And she takes off for a run, and she's kind of spinning out a little bit. He goes in the trunk and he gets tranquilizer, a syringe, and he catches up with her and he tranquilizes her. And then somehow she ends up back at home. it's weird. And the phone rings and it's him. And he sort of has this conversation with her where he kind of brings it full circle, but he wants to meet with her. And he then meets with her and he just tells her, hey, listen, I don't think we can continue this. We'll have to find you another therapist, because it's one thing for you to have emotions like, because they were just about to kiss when she looked down and saw what his name was Mike. And prior to that, she said, I think the person that did this to me, his name is Mike. And he was like, why do you think that? Everything was kind of trying to get her to figure it out for herself. When he took her to the trucking yard, she was like, why would I have been here? What's around here? We find out hotels were around here. Well, why would I have been in a hotel? I was a married woman. In this process, she also finds out she has a child. She finds out about a friend named Claire. And each time she goes back to the husband in this routine, mundane, simplistic sort of whitewashed life. Again, you look on the outside of the house, it's a simple blue and white house. It's a simple floor plan. It looks like a simple yard. They have a simple dinner, one of those dinners where the two people sit across from each other and have a glass of wine and like green beans, mashed potatoes, a piece of chicken, and a glass of wine, and you can hear the plates and the forks and the knives all clanging together in this, deafening silence. It's so pedestrian. So each night when she learns something new, she asks him about it, asks Ben, her husband, about it. And he always has a good excuse. He seems emotional. He seems fraught. He seems fed up. He seems exhausted. She asks him about if she has a child. Why, I have a child. Was there a child? And he says, yes, we had a child. His name was yada, yada, yada. He died, in adolescence, meningitis. And she wants to know if she was a good mom. He says, yes. And she's upset with him. You have to tell me. You have to tell me these things. Yeah, he's telling you every day. That's what I was thinking. I still wasn't convinced that Ben was the enemy. I still wasn't convinced that Dr. Nash was not the enemy, even though he came to her and he said, I don't think I can see you anymore because you have feelings towards me, because I'm helping you reveal all of these things in your psyche, but it's doubly worse because I have these emotions for you. And she was like, oh, no, we're so close and you're revealing everything, yada, yada, yada. But we're still not sure about Dr. Nash. We're still not sure about Dr. Nash. We're still not sure about her husband, Ben. So we throw this third person in, which is now her friend Claire. And when she's at her pedestrian dinner with Ben on another night, again, every waking scene, her eyes open, bloodshot, more and more bloodshot every time. The bluest eye opens and she gets up and he's sitting outside the bathroom door on the edge of the bed every time she comes out. So it doesn't matter what they discussed the day before, because the next morning they go through it all over again. Dr. Nash calls, she looks at the camera, she sees the video she did the night before and all of its energy that she put in it at that time. But now we've got Claire in place, and Dr. Nash has helped her get in touch with Claire. And I'm like, why would he help her to this extent if he had malicious intent towards her? It seems to me you would want to create new memories for her that suit you, as opposed to exposing her to people and things in her past that could possibly bring her around to the real truth, to the real crux of the matter, right? So she gets a number, I think, and calls for Claire, and Claire is not there. Then she asks her husband in this pedestrian dinner one night, and she says, who is Claire? And he was like, I don't really know a Claire. And at first you believe he doesn't know Claire. Like, who is this Claire person? Is she in on the scam with Dr. Nash? And then it comes to him, oh, Claire, your best friend. Like, you should have known off the rip and should have had a bit of excitement about the fact that she remembered Claire. I mean, she didn't even remember her son, and that his name was Adam. But she's asking you about Claire. It seems like he would have been a little bit excited about it, but he plays like he doesn't know. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, and she gives him a little bit more information about it. He's like, oh, yeah, yeah, Claire, that was your best friend. She tried to help. She tried to you know, help as much as she could after your accident, but it can't became to be too much. And I think she moved somewhere like, I don't know, possibly Canada. And she's like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. Um, and every day that they have this pedestrian dinner, she reveals us something a little bit new, more new that she knows about it until she gets to meet Claire. She gets a phone call and it's Claire. And it's kind of like she's relieved because Claire may be this person that can help her see what's going on. Like I seem terrified when I look at the camera every morning and see the things that I said. These are the things that are happening. This is my state of mind just yesterday, even though I feel completely blank about it today. Hopefully you can help me like figure this out. Is Dr. Nash, is my husband, is both of them, they working together? Like, girl, did I work for the CIA? What? Do I have the keys to the safe? Like what? So Claire says I can't come there, which makes me become suspicious of Ben. She says, the husband, she says, meet me at the park on this bench. And somehow Christine knows where this park is. She knows where this bench is. Like, though, these are the little things that was confusing me. I'm like, how does she remember this? How does she remember to drive? Like, how a phone works? Like, you don't even remember your own son. But I guess some things are like riding a bike. I don't know. It just seems like having a son would be something that was indelibly imprinted on your psyche. I don't know. Um, they meet at the park bench, and although every picture in her mind, Claire had short hair. When she sees Claire, she has long hair, and I myself am not sure if it's Claire or if it's her or some other Caucasian woman. Like, but something in her kind of knew. They hugged and they sat and they talked, and then they went and had tea, and they talked, and she learns a lot. She learns that she was a great mom. She learns that Claire stuck in there after she had her accident. And Claire wants to know. I mean, Christine wants to know why did you not hang in there? Why did you leave? Why did you move away? And she was like, I live in the city. I didn't move anywhere. Okay, Ben, you lied. You lied, husband Ben. I'm putting a pin in all of it, right? Then she finds out that Ben and Claire, after helping her convalesce and get better, and the son, everything that happened with the son, Ben turns out Ben left her. She finds out that Ben divorced her and left her in a hospital to be taken care of every day because he just could not take it. And she also finds out that Claire and Ben, after helping her convalesce, slept together, and she's upset about it. She's upset about it. But we also find out that again she didn't have a car accident. Through with the help of Dr. Nash, we find out she was attacked. We think that she was attacked by an individual that she was having an affair with. She was having an affair on Ben, her husband. And she had a child with him. The child was perfectly fine at this time. We find out that something happened in a hotel where she was viciously attacked. Now it's revealed piecemeal as her memory kind of sort of collects itself and comes back. She realizes she was a cheater. So she was upset about Claire having slept with Ben, even though it was in this sort of comforting each other type of way, which don't make it better. I'm just saying. Um, when she asks Ben about it during their mundane pedestrian dinner, he's washing dishes and he seems to shed a tear. I see a tear fall down his face because here she is once again bringing something up, bringing something from the past up. And he is really coming across like it does no good for you to know these things. It does no good for you to try to hold on to these things because you're just going to lose them tomorrow and they upset you in this way. He does admit that he had divorced her because she leaves and goes down to his job on one of these. Like I said, she saw Dr. Nash over a period of few weeks. So when she found out that her and Ben were actually divorced, she goes down to his job and she says, "You divorced me. You left me." And he was like, "Yeah, I couldn't handle it. But I realized I loved you so much. I couldn't do it. I couldn't leave you out there like that. And I came back to you." And it just seems like this really endearing moment. I'm completely empathetic with Ben and how it must be so tremendously hard for him. At the same time, she has this fear of him, this unsureness about him that comes across every day when she looks at her previous night's video that she's done for herself, which encompasses all the energy she was feeling at that moment, the angst, the anxiety, the distrust, the just the sheer fear of not knowing what the real doggone truth is. Now, but Claire has brought in some clarity. And so she's staying in communication with Claire and with Dr. Nash. Now, Ben has just about had it. He's gone up to the hospital where Dr. Nash is after he kind of confiscates, after she asks about the divorce. He's like, something's going on. Like, why are all these memories of Adam, their son, and the fact that she was attacked, and the fact that she had a friend named Claire, and now the fact that he divorced her, and all of this stuff. Like, where is she getting this from? It seems like he wants to keep her from remembering. But it also kind of comes across that he wants to keep her from remembering because he's trying to protect her. It seems like he did know about the affair, but he's trying to protect her from, how kind of maybe whorish she was. Maybe he's trying to get over the fact that she had an affair and then this terrible thing happened to her. And now this is the shell of a person that he's left with. That's how it's coming across. Like, it's very, very well written, very, very well acted by Colin Firth. Again, it just kind of comes across as he is just like fed up. Well, he confiscates her phone. He sees where Claire is calling. He decides that she can no longer get those phone calls. He goes by the hospital. He sees Dr. Nash, and he walks right past Dr. Nash, and then he turns around and calls Dr. Nash, and Dr. Nash looks and turns and he looks at him and he's like, Ben, oh, you're Ben Lucas. And he kind of seems a little thrown aback, but not really. And he was like, how are you? And he was like, stay the F away from my wife. And walks off. And Dr. Nash is like, oh, okay. So, Ben is trying to kind of take control of the situation, but the die has been cast. Like, a lot of these things, once she sees the video, she's able to kind of reference what's going on. She's able to see the full picture in the form of her own confessionals through having all of the videos. So all along, the story keeps being told because she has the videos to replay to remind her. So she actually calls Claire, and Claire's like, she's like, I've been calling you, Claire. Or Claire's like, I've been calling you. And she was like, he's got my phone. He's very upset. Well, she makes a video for her husband, for Ben, where she wants to tell him how much she loves him. She realizes now that she thinks that she knows now that she was the cause of their divorce, that everything was just so overwhelming. She was having an affair on him. She had this thing happen to her, and that he has really been the only person that stood by her. So she makes a video telling him just how wonderful he is, how lucky she is to have him. And then she tells him about Dr. Nash, and that they've been having these sessions for the past few weeks, and she realizes now how much he loves her, Ben, and that she's very lucky and she's very grateful, and she's so sorry that she hurt him and all of that. And Ben looks at it, and she was holding his hand and touching his face and looking at him like trying to give him some piece of hope and happiness and just appreciation. And he hauls off and slaps the holy crap out of her. Slap. Now we know Ben is the enemy. Everything Dr. Nash has done, although it's been suspect, it's been for her good. It's been for her benefit, including trying to relieve her as his patient and give her to another doctor that specialized in the type of illness that she had. But Ben, who has been giving her these really, really great excuses about the son and why he didn't bring it up, the fact that the son is not around, that he passed away, that Claire is a person that she was really good friends with, that kind of took care of her but couldn't really hang in there and left and went to Canada. She couldn't handle it. All of these seem like viable reasons. Like we didn't have a whole lot of the past backstory. Like we're discovering it just like she is, except we're able to hold on to it in the next scene. In the next scene, she's starting over again. But now when he slaps her and draws blood to her nose and her cheek is all bruised and she goes to the bathroom, she calls her friend. She calls Claire from her cell phone. And Claire, asks her, he hit you? And she was like, yeah, he hit me. And she was like, what does Ben look like? And she was like, oh, I don't know, dark hair. Yeah, dark hair. Is he tall? Well, no, not particularly tall. He's average. And she says, does he have a scar on his face? And she realizes he doesn't have a scar on his face. And she was like, I don't think that the man that you're calling Ben is Ben. Well, of course, she doesn't know what to do. She's just trying to figure it all out, compartmentalize it, and just trying to, but again, once she goes to sleep and she wakes up, all of this conversation with Claire, the fact that she was knocked in her face, all of these things will be lost, except for the video, right? Now, so the next morning, Ben has taken the phone. This is also when he goes to see Dr. Nash. So instead of him going to work, he goes about trying to erase all of the lines that have been drawn that kind of lead her back to home place mentally. And he told her in the opening scene that they were going on a trip together, and to make sure she packs her bags. And so she's starting the day afresh. She was like, pack the bags, where we're going. You remember I told you I put it on your board to pack a bag, that I was going to take you somewhere special. And she was like, oh, okay, cool. Now she does have this bruise on her cheek. She doesn't know where it's from. She's got this slightly red tinge to her nose because, it's been bleeding and it was injured. But she gets dressed and she goes, and Ben collects her and he takes her to a hotel. Now it looks to me like the same hotel where she was attacked, because every night when she goes to sleep, she still has these dreams. She has these dreams about how she was attacked. A champagne bottle was used to bludgeon her. You see her crawling and scraping towards the hotel door, bloodied in a white bathrobe, just crawling and fighting for her life, trying to get away. And you see the enemy grab her by the ankle and pull her back in. You see all of these things. And when they get to the hotel, she feels cautious. She knows she's got this bruise across her face for a reason. Ben has ordered champagne, and she has questions for him. He's sick of it. He's had it. He's had it up to here. And he tells her what happened. He tells her that he is Mike. He has been pretending to be Ben. You see, what happened was the last day of their affair, her being in her right sound mind, they're getting up from coitus, post coitus glow, and he wants her to leave the husband. He wants to call the husband and tell the husband what's going on so that they can be together and be happy forever. And she's telling him, no, I can't. I've got a son with him. I can't do that. And he goes around and says, I'll call him. And he's standing in front of her. She's sitting on the bed and the phone's right there on the nightstand. And he goes to call and she was like, don't do that. Are you crazy? Takes the receiver of the phone and quacks her over the face. Oh, she falls on the floor and she is shocked. That shock that you get when someone has mollywopped you seemingly out of the blue. She's not sure. Well, he continues to beat her. There is a champagne bottle there, and he begins to wail on her. She begins to crawl towards the door. This is a scene that we've seen before, all bloodied in her post-coitus bathrobe, and he snatches her leg back in and gives her quite a wailing. Well, he must have thought she was dead, and she must have, in her injuries, in her daze and craze, able to walk out of the hotel room and find herself a way, some type of way down to this tractor trailer yard and collapse. And this is where the man found her. He says that when he realized that the husband had left her and had stashed her somewhere in a mental health facility, he put some paperwork together, forged it, bada bing, bada boom, ID, went and collected her out and brought her to be with him. He felt like he could heal her and he could finally have her love by now pretending to be Ben. I don't know why he didn't pretend to be Mike himself. Like, she wouldn't have known if her husband's name was Mike or was Ben. But maybe he felt like other people might encounter her and ask about Ben, and maybe that would have been a trigger. It just seems like if you're going to recreate the narrative of her life every day, seems like to me you could have made it as fantastical and as wonderful and as joyous as possible. But what he tried to do was stick her in a situation where she kind of looks like his wife. He had done a really, really great job. We see her kind of think back on this collage of their wedding photos and dinner photos and stuff together. They were all Mike, her husband, or Ben, her real husband. And Mike had taken, the lover had taken his photo and placed them on top of all of those photos. And made it look like he was the person she was marrying. He was the person that she was kissing and nuzzling with at dinner and laughing lovingly in photos. And it looked like they had this huge life together. And all of it was actually Ben, her true husband's photo, and not him, Mike the lover. Okay, so lo these many years, he's been pretending to be Ben when all along he was Mike the lover who had beat her unmercifully, out to the point of death almost. They didn't even know how she was going to survive, and now has the mindset to go and collect her and try to retell her life through his own lens with his own agenda. It was disgusting. Well, it happens all over again. It happens all over again. The attack, him wailing on her and beating her and throwing her about. And it seems like, okay, this time, sis, he's going to kill you. He is going to kill you because he has said, this is what it's going to be. No more Ben, no more old life. This is Mike. It's going to be you and I. This is what it's going to be. Apparently she has no one else. No sisters, no cousins, no nothing, right? He feels like he's run Nash off. He feels like he's gotten rid of Claire. Now all really he has to do is just move her. Every day is a new day for her, so she'll start over, right? But she's fighting now this time for her life. She's fighting for her memories. She's fighting for some sanity and some stability. And so when she says something about her son and he was just like, screw your son and the horse he rode in on, she begins to fight back, and she is able to get the best of him and save herself. Well, she has, he had the camera there. He's going to erase everything. And she was able to wrestle with him. I think he had a gun, get the camera, and she's determined to run after she gets him off of her, and she runs with the camera. And we see at the end, everything was said and done. They've got her in the ambulance. I think he was arrested. I don't think he ultimately died, although it could have been the case. I can't remember that for some reason. I don't know why that wasn't important enough for me to remember. But they're putting her in the ambulance, she makes a video for herself. She doesn't want to forget. She makes a video for herself with this camera, which is why even through all of the fighting with him and stuff, she was determined to get herself out with this camera. So she's in the ambulance and she tells the story to herself about what just happened, what went on, what's really the truth, what's going on, the whole nine. So she gets in the hospital ward and she's recovering. It's maybe a day or so later. In comes Dr. Nash and he repeats who he is and he asks her how she's feeling and tells her the situation. He also tells her there's someone there to see her. And that person is her real husband. He did divorce her. He never came back. He divorced her because when she had the accident, when this thing happened to her, they still had the son. The son never died, and she was sort of terrorizing the son. Every morning she would find out he was her son, and she didn't trust the husband Ben, and she would take the son and try to run, and it was just terrifying, the son. He wasn't sure. She had found, this is how she found out about the son. She had found little pictures where he had drawn, and this was over a period of like 10 or 12 years. The son had drawn like, mommy come home, mommy get better, mommy remember, all of these things. So he had been truly traumatized by what happened to his mother and the end resulting illness. So the husband comes in and he apologizes. He's got the scar on his face. This is her real husband. And he tells her he's sorry that he left her. He didn't hang in there. He's sorry if he had known that this was going to happen and this is a situation that she would be in so much danger, he never would have left her. But he did it for the son. Now he has brought the son there. And the son is there, and he looks like he's about 12 or 13. He might have been 14 or 15. Beautiful boy. He's got blue eyes, too. Okay. Ben, the real husband, got blue eyes. I believe Mike, the fake husband, had blue eyes. She got blue eyes. Here comes this son with beautiful alabaster skin, and he's got blue eyes, too. And she asks him something she must have asked him every day as a child coming up. This reference about, how are you doing, or what are you going to do today, or what's your favorite part of the day, or something about breakfast, anything. It was this where she gives him the intro and he kind of finishes it. This is something, a ritual that they did as mother and son. And he's so excited that she remembered that because that was so endearing to him. And so they hug and she kisses him and it's this wonderful thing. And then it goes off. Like, it feels like she's going to regain her life. And I was just like, oh, that was an emotional roller coaster. Emotional roller coaster. You guys, honestly, I had no idea who the villain was. I wasn't sure. I floated in and out. Is it Dr. Nash? Is it the fake husband Ben? Ben was giving excuses. Every time she would ask him a question, he just seemed real kind of matter of fact about it. It seemed like a legitimate excuse. Like, I was completely empathizing with how much he must have been going through as the surviving parent. I could completely understand Dr. Nash's point of view. He seemed like he was helping her. He seems like he was helping her regain her conscience. But what about this whole Mike thing? His name is Mike, and she did think the person that attacked her name was Mike. It was just like she had all of these pieces, but she didn't know how to fit them in to make the full picture. So I was torn as well, and the fact that we started over every day was frustrating me. It was sort of putting me in this quagmire where I felt like I was starting over every day with her. I didn't have the same amount of judgment for her as it went along, because I just was like, it's so frustrating that she has to start over every day. Like, this is some traumatic information. It seems like you should be able to hold on to this, but no. I don't know if she got better. I don't know. Now, so let's just talk about where I am present day 2020. Like I said, with everything that's going on in the world, including this plague that we have that's sweeping across the land. I kept thinking little things like, if this was a black woman, would anyone have cared? No, she would have been pushing a buggy down Main Street. She would have been branded as schizophrenic and psychotic and maybe thrown in the psych ward, homeless, living under a bridge, babbling endlessly. Everyone seemed to just love Christine. Everyone thought that she needed saving and support. You got Dr. Nash, who's supposed to be helping her. He is, quite frankly, fallen in love with her. You've got a man who nearly bludgeoned her to death and then goes and is able to, with no effort at all. He says 30 minutes tops. It took him to get her out of the hospital. I'm like, if I was a black man, no way. He would have had to give a DNA sample, baby. No way. I mean, it just seemed like everybody was coming to this damsel's defense. I was kind of resentful for her for that, because I was like, this illness given to your average black woman, it would just been a whole different scenario. Just how patient everybody was, just how accommodating everybody was, how careful everybody was with her. The fact that she had been having this raging affair on her husband. It wasn't, this scarlet letter for her. It was just all kind of pitied. And I was glad that she was able to regain her life. But at the same time, I was like, tell this same story with Annalise Keating. And it would be wholly unbelievable. Wholly unbelievable. I don't know. I felt a bevy of emotions. It was a really, really good movie. If you've not had a chance to see it, I really, really encourage you to watch it. Don't just take my opinion for it. Then come back and give me a comment about how you felt about it. Did you notice some of the same similarities? I don't know. I don't think this story could have been told of a person of color. I don't know. You guys tell me if you disagree with me. At the same time, it was a good movie. It was a good ride. It was. If you've seen it, tell me how you feel about it. Let me know what you think. Were you getting some of those same things? Do you feel like what you're going through now in terms of this pandemic and everything that's going on with government and lack of trust for the government, everything that's going on with continuing, it's nothing new, continuing as it with the whole anti-black agenda, and how black and brown people are continuing to be accosted and not kidnapped, but held up and detained unlawfully and murdered in the streets, and they don't want us to wear a mask because we look, even in their mind, even more of a criminal. Do you find that it is sort of skewing your view of movies? Movies that maybe you were perfectly happy with, but now because they have you have these feelings or this perspective or this jaded perspective, Um, are you seeing the movies different? Are you seeing the characters different? Are you seeing the storylines different? I know for me, I'm wholly frustrated with how much frolicking we're doing out there trying to keep from being bored. I don't think we're doing enough as a community to bring awareness and attention, constant, consistent awareness and attention to what's going on with this anti-Black agenda.